Hello, everybody. Well, this is the last day. The pilgrimage is now complete, actually. So, in a way, it's kind of bittersweet. It was such a gift, such a privilege to be able to come on this pilgrimage. I'm very, very grateful to Dr. John Bergsma for calling me. Because circumstances were such that things just didn't work out with other clergy. So he gave me an email, sent an email to me, and asked me if I would do this. And I said yes. And then because of my personality, I thought, well, this is outside of my box. But I'm so grateful that I was asked, and I'm so filled with joy that I actually went, and it worked out. Because the COVID situation, when he asked me, was still uncertain. A lot of things were up in the air, but we did plow forward, and God is always good. But His goodness was manifested in this way by making this pilgrimage possible. It's the second or third time He's been trying, with COVID. So some of the original pilgrims who signed up were on this from Eugene, Oregon. So, I met some really super nice people from all over the States. A couple from Brazil, actually a mother and son. Most of the rest of the people were from the States, and then myself and a parishioner from Corpus Christi, and her two children and her brother, and also one from Powell River. So it was really nice to see her on this trip. It was just an honor and a privilege. So today, what we did was we started the day by going to En Karim, which may not mean anything to you, but it's the house of the visitation of our Blessed Mother to Saint Elizabeth. This is where Elizabeth lived with her husband Zachariah. He was of a high priestly family, so he would have been quite wealthy. This is like in their day. This was like living along Marine Drive, South Marine Drive. Very expensive real estate, or high levels of West Vancouver type of thing. And every city has their own. So he was very well-to-do. He was a member of the priestly family. So Mary went there, the visitation, after she heard that Elizabeth was pregnant with John the Baptist, and had the privilege of offering the sacrifice of the Mass for the pilgrims. It was our last Mass here. And it was just a wonderful place to kind of wrap things up, bring things to a full circle, as it were, and a close, because the last words of the gospel were Mary stayed with Elizabeth about 3 months and then went back home. So we've been on this pilgrimage for 8 days, I think. The total the complete days are like 10, but the actual days here I think are 9, and then we go back home. So hopefully we can carry the blessings with us that we acquired here on the pilgrimage. So Mass was celebrated at the visitation of our blessed of Saint Elizabeth, and we celebrated their meeting when Mary brought Christ to Elizabeth, who had John the Baptist, and as soon as Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the child John the Baptist leaped in her womb, because he knew that he was in the presence of the Messiah, the Son of God. In some mysterious way, he knew it, leapt for joy. So after that, then we went to see, it was actually an Israeli museum that had a kind of scaled version of the ancient city. So it was 1 to 50. And it was it's like an acre-sized model of the ancient city. So much work has gone into this. It's such an historical, it's like a treasure to look at this thing. And you begin to see certain things that happened, like where they took St. Stephen out to martyr him, the valley of Kidron Valley, and all these other things like Gehenna and so on. Where the high priest was, where Pilate was, where they had Jesus on the steps. So it really kind of gives you a certain perspective. And I took a video of that, so you're welcome to, of course, go look at that. And you might get a sense of things. I mean, I can't describe it like a biblical scholar or an archaeologist, but I try to do it my best, just to kind of give people some sort of sense of the holy city of Jerusalem. And then we actually went so that's part of the museum. It's outside, so it's exposed to the elements. And then we went inside to kind of complete things, wrap things up, into the museum to see the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, these were copies of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And this is like the biggest archaeological find in the last century. A lot of us may not appreciate that, but just one little tidbit as to why this is so important is, there's a dispute between the Catholic and Protestant Bible that I won't really go into, but I mean, there is a dispute. We have 7 books in the Old Testament that the Protestants do not believe are inspired by God. But the Dead Sea Scrolls prove that the Jewish people were reading Tobit and, had, there are major portions that have been sort of, but have been preserved in the Dead Sea Scrolls, like Tobit. I don't want to go so far as to say Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, but it's evidence, it's biblical sort of script evidence that these books were being read by the Essenes. And the Essenes, they didn't mess with this stuff. They were like a monastic community. So this is like a huge find that's still undergoing research by really high-level scholars. So it was fascinating to see this, to see these are replicas actually of the real thing, because the real things are kept in high security. I mean, they are treasures for the state of Israel, and they're treasures for every person who's concerned about sacred scripture. And copies are just fine for somebody like me and the people who are on the trip. So after that, then we got practical and went for a small lunch, and then we're going out as a group for a supper before our last supper, and we're going to have some lamb. Apparently a whole lamb, because we're a big crowd. And then we go off to the airport. So that's the day it wrapped up. I ask you to pray for me if you watch this after I leave, to pray that I'm healthy and that I'm safe. We all are, all the pilgrims. As I said, I was really privileged to be on this, and it was such a gift. And I met some wonderful people. There's wonderful people everywhere. So God bless you, and I'll see my parishioners for a very short period of time, and then, I'm off to a workshop. God bless you.